All right, what do you think about this drum tone? Not the greatest drum tone in the world. It's a little muddy, maybe. It's a little smeared sounding. But what's interesting about this drum tone is that no microphones were used to record this. At least not microphones like we think of them. So the only thing I use to record these 4 tracks are speakers. Specifically speakers out of my last 2 cars that I've owned. When I upgrade the audio system in my cars, I keep the old speakers. So we have tweeters as overheads from a Honda CR-V. We have the door woofer speaker on snare from a Honda CR-V, and a door speaker, I believe it's a 6.5 from a 2008 Mercury Mariner on the kick drum. Now, with that in mind, let's check it out again. So pretty interesting, right? I don't think it's a drum tone that any of us are gonna want to specifically go for, but it's pretty interesting to me that we can get that from using speakers. So I wanted to dive in a little bit and see, okay, are there any good applications for actually using these? And I wanted to share with everyone what I found out. Now, if we dive in here, we will see I don't have any processing other than EQ on these tracks, and I have quite a bit of EQ. These overheads, the 2 tweeters, go to this group track, so a little bit of EQ on there as well. You can see it was just harsh. Now if we take off that EQ, it starts to sound pretty rough pretty quick. So let's bypass all of these, and then we have so if we go through, you know, the snare needed EQ more than anything else. And when you EQ it enough, it kind of starts to sound like a snare mic, but just not quite. There's something off about it, clearly. So what I found out is we can get some interesting sounds from doing this that it's really, really hard to get with traditional microphones. One cool way we can use this is just for character, or, you know, a mic that you have up on the kit that just captures sort of this lo-fi, you know, room kind of sound. So what I learned pretty quick is that the tweeters typically just didn't sound very good. These are just the tweeters on as overheads. They're put on as AB overheads in this. Let me put the EQ back on. Now that's just not great. Now if we go over here, and then we can really compare it here. So these are the 2 SM81 overheads that I did on another little drum take. So these are just SM81. Okay, those are clearly a lot better. Those are also run through a little bit of processing here. I have my Empirical Labs Fatso that I love, and I'm going to have to do a whole separate video on that. But, so our tweeters clearly aren't bringing it as overheads, and I tried this snare trick where I put a woofer on the side of the snare, and then a tweeter on top of the snare, and it's just not great. That's the combo. This is just the tweeter on a snare. It's just pretty rough. So I ruled out tweeters pretty quickly. When they didn't work as overheads and they didn't work on the snare, you know, they're cool that you can place them easily, which we're going to get into with some of the other speakers I use when I pull out the subwoofer. But it just, you're never going to really want that sound. It's so tinny and harsh that these particular tweeters, at least, I kind of can just rule them out. Now, if we look at the snare drum, it's a little different. It's obviously not as good as a 57, but there's something about it where I could think, okay, this could be cool in like a lo-fi breakdown of a song or something where you would have to do a lot of work on a 57 or another mic to get this kind of weird room sound, where it's like, okay, I might be able to play with that and use that as an effect. Now, if we look at the kick drum, this is where things get a little interesting. So this is the Ford. It's a Ford speaker from a Mercury Mariner. Let's check this out. This is just the kick drum speaker. That might be a little quiet because these speakers pick up a ton of low end. You see, I'm actually filtering out some of the low end. Because using these speakers, especially on a low frequency source, can be overpowering. So that's kind of interesting. It picks up the low end. It's sort of usable. But what I've found when playing with the different speakers and using them in different mic setups is that the speaker on the outside of the kick drum actually kind of acts like it's basically a sub kick. And it pairs really, really nicely with a traditional kick drum mic, like inside the hole. So that's what we're going to dig into next, and I'm going to let you hear that. All right, so I have this other session pulled up. So I have a full set of drum mics now. These are all microphones except for two. So we are narrowing down on the kick drum for this. So we have this up here, which is our Ford speaker, 6.5-inch door speaker. Then this track down here is the JBL Subwoofer. All right, I will color these, make it a little easier. Whoopsie. To see that. Okay. So the JBL subwoofer down here, it is non-ported. It's just in a box that and this is my car subwoofer. But I took it out to try this out. So let's first of all, let's just hear the drum set without any of these speakers. So this is all the mics. All right, so let's solo this JBL here. Again, it might be a little quiet, and what I've done, I'll let you hear it without this. So there's no processing on this right now whatsoever. There's nothing going on there. No reverb, nothing. So let's check it out. Okay, and what I do, and I do the same thing with the Ford door speaker, is I just low pass these. So this gives us the really super low end thump that complements the mics pretty well. So I was trying this out with the subwoofer, so here it is, soloed. Okay. Here is just our kick mic. It's the Sennheiser kick drum microphone. It's in the hole on my kick, and it's got a real nice attack to it, but it has a nice body, but it doesn't have a ton of low end, honestly. So let's bring in the JBL subwoofer while we play this here. So this is the Sennheiser kick drum mic, and then I'll bring in the JBL subwoofer. So it really fattens up the sound a lot. And normally in a mix, again, I'm pretty cautious with these speakers, so I normally have it kind of low, but I wanted to demonstrate it in this video so that you could kind of easily hear it. So in a mix, it might be more like this. Okay, but we can, you know, just hear it. It definitely adds a new layer to it that gives it a lot of depth. Similar to, you know, what a lot of different microphones could do on a resonant side of a kick drum, as well as a sub kick. But this, you know, this is a 12-inch subwoofer, so it's just able to pick up ridiculous amounts of low end, and you can see, you know, it's peaking. I think this is basically where my kick drum is tuned, around this 50-60 hertz. It's really low, but there's just plenty to spare down here of this low end, which is crazy. It adds a lot to it. So the thing with the JBL, I don't know that I love having the subwoofer on there. It's really difficult to place, first of all, because it's a giant speaker. I could definitely use this in a mix. Oh, let's hear it in the whole mix here, and then I'll bring it in. So cool. Sounds okay. It sounds pretty good. It's neat to try. It's fun to hear. Let's see what else we can do. So what I've seen some other guys do, and this is some of the engineers that I'm kind of copying with this concept, even though you don't see or hear about this a lot, is using subwoofers and bigger speakers in the room around a drum set, kind of like a room mic. So I'm going to leave this low passed right now, and this is pulled back. Okay, so let's check this out, just the subwoofer soloed. All right, let's get rid of the low pass. There's kind of some weird resonance here. It's kind of weird for a subwoofer to pick that up. Is that a great room mic? I don't really see it. So sure, you can pick up, and I didn't play any toms in this. If I was playing a tom heavy section, I could see this picking up like this thunderous low end all around the drum kit that might be kind of cool. But for this, it's really not necessary, and I don't feel like it's adding a lot, but let's go ahead and hear it in the mix. And then what I did is I just took it further back. And right now, again, this other speaker is just muted right now. But let's go ahead and hear this further back in the room. Okay, cool. I'm curious what you all think of that on the listening sources that you guys are listening, hopefully monitors or headphones or something. Okay, now this takes us to the most interesting part of the video, I think, which is what I have actually kept to use on almost all of my drum recordings here. So this comes to the forward speaker. I'm going to mute the JBL track here. Okay. And we're going to listen just to the forward speaker, set right on the outside of the resonant side of the kick drum. And this is paired with the Sennheiser mic. So let's hear just the Sennheiser, and then I'll bring in the forward door speaker. Okay, so I'm bringing it pretty high in the mix, so for exaggerated effect, but I think it adds a lot of low end to that kick drum, and it adds a lot of resonance and sustain, where the JBL subwoofer down here actually had like a tighter kind of sound, which was cool. It still had that low end that I really like to add to that Sennheiser mic, but the forward speaker has so much resonance, and I think maybe because it's I don't know a lot about speaker science, but I'm guessing because it's just like a thinner and smaller speaker, it's more easily able to resonate. Plus, I was able to just place it, because of its size, a little closer to that kick drum in a little better spot on that kick. So let's hear it again, and this is about where I normally keep it, is around here in the middle. So I'll bring it in. So it's not a ton, but it's enough that you notice it when it's gone. And especially in, again, depending on what you're listening to the music on right now, it's more noticeable depending on that. So let's hear it in the whole mix here. And I will bring it in from 0. Pretty thunderous, right? So let's bring it into where I normally keep it in a mix, somewhere around here. So again, it's not the majority of the kick drum sound, but you totally miss it when it's gone. And I've started using this more and more, and I love using this on my drum set sound. So I've tried it on different drums and different areas of the room, and this is pretty clearly the best placement that I've come up with. So I'm really curious if anyone has experimented with speakers out there and found anything different. I would love to hear about that, because I've actually spent a decent amount of time experimenting with this when I can and trying different things, and this is basically what I've come up with. So I really appreciate it, and thanks for checking it out.